Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I just, like I say, I have a little giggle with myself because it has just become second nature. When I come in and do my lives every single night, it's the same spiel, but it's not really. If you really pay attention, it's that energy that I put out there. I understand. I have 5 seconds to catch your attention. And in that 5 seconds, you are making a decision whether or not to give me another 5 seconds. What comes to mind is, I was never one for job interviews, right? Everybody in my family loved to go for interviews. For me, it was one of the most scariest. Oh, it was horrid. It was absolutely horrid for me to go for a job interview because behind that door, I never knew who that face was going to be. And even back then, I didn't need anybody to tell me that I had 5 seconds to make a good impression. But because of the way I had beaten myself up in the lessons that had been that had been projected on to me, that I had taken on as part of my persona. We're talking about my self worth. That for me, it just compounded the fear. And I really did not like doing interviews. And yet, I aced almost every single job interview that I ever went on. I got an offer of a position. It was being put in that spot, right? In knowing who was, or not knowing who was behind that door, knowing that they were going to make a decision on me. I didn't think in 5 seconds. I thought maybe 90 seconds, right? They say that's what it takes for somebody to make a decision about you. And yet they still go through that process. I don't know, out of courtesy, or they have nothing better to do, but they'll put you through the motions of that job interview. But I would always be in terror because I'm somebody who needs to feel out somebody. And I'm sure if you're highly sensitive, if you're empathic, if you have any hesitation when it comes up to the people that you surround yourself with, and not only that, the people that come into your space, that you get a little bit of apprehensive about it, that you would understand what I'm talking about. But for myself, because I didn't want to feel like a fool, I didn't want to feel like the loser, that I always, when I was put on the spot and I had to come through, I would shine. I would shine. And I would just say, it's the magic, Cindy. You just got that magic touch. You just got to believe in yourself. But job interviews was a prime example because I had no belief in myself at all. Job interviews were terrifying for me. But like I said, I always aced them. There was always a job offer for me in doing those job interviews, like getting me to them. That was another story. That was another story. It would stop me from applying for work. It would stop me for going after the jobs that I thought that I would absolutely love or I would absolutely be really good at. I would go for those minuscules, low paying positions, maybe something that would give me a little bit of freedom because my personal life above anything else is the most important. It has always been that way for me, right? I've always had that mindset that I was creating the best life for myself as I possibly could, right? That I was creating a life that I could be proud of, a life that I could enjoy, a life that I could have fun, a life that at the end of my lifetime, when I couldn't move, when I was just riddled with rheumatoid arthritis or, right, whatever the ailment I thought I was going to have when I was younger, that I would be able to look back at my life and go, that was fun. That was fun. I can't wait to do it again. And actually, I have to be honest, I thought that, when it came to the end of my life, that was going to be the end of my life. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Tammy. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I really thought that it was going to just be the end of my life. I was an agnostic for all of my life. I'm not going to say that I didn't believe in God. I always felt that there was something, but I never knew what that something was. It wasn't till well into my, I'm going to have to say, well into my 50s, when I first woke up to some of these ideas, it just dropped on my head like a big red brick. As a no question, it was 100% knowing that Cindy's not coming back, but there were parts of me that were so ancient that it had been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that I knew that some part of me was coming back. But just as much as I believed that, I equally believed that Cindy herself was not coming back. And it was in that bit of saving grace in, creating the best life for myself as I possibly could. And because I didn't think much about my life, I had been through the ringer, just like a lot of people out there. I've been through the ringer and I wanted to enjoy my life. And because I never really felt that I had any kind of purpose except to enjoy my life, to play out my existence, right? To play out my existence until my existence was over. And when I got that revelation, it was a revelation, 100%. You couldn't budge me from that moment to now to understand and believe in anything else. It's just instinctively in me, and it brings me joy. It really does bring me joy because I've always served others. I've always done for others, right? Thinking that I didn't have anything to contribute. And so I didn't treat myself very well. It was just an existence. And yet, beautiful relationships, beautiful adventures came into my life, but that was in my doing, in wanting to create the best life for myself as I possibly could, right? And again, that was my saving grace. That was the exact ingredient that those other parts of me needed and wanted. And I felt that. I felt that wholeheartedly. And I was all in. I didn't have anything better to do. So I moved along in that. And it's strange how it worked out for me because, when I first woke up to some of these ideas, it was going so fast that I was just able to just grab little bits and pieces, right? Little ideas and like I said, some of these revelations and these knowings and right, and it was just like absolute crazy town for me. But in that crazy town, it was so crazy town that it couldn't be denied. It couldn't be it couldn't be unreal, right? It was a wake up call. I'm not going to say from hell, right? It was from somewheres, but it was a wake up call 100%. And it has been an adventure. It truly has been an adventure. And in that adventure, I have become more courageous. I have been a better friend to myself. I feel that I have purpose, right? That I have something to contribute, that I'm actually pretty beautiful on the inside, right? And that was funny because, as a child, it was something that my dad and my grandmother used to say to me all the time when I would just be disillusioned and feeling bad about myself. They always say, Cindy, it's what's in the inside that counts, right? Not what's on the outside, right? And then they tell me the little ugly duckling story, right? My dad was big on stories, and it would always make me feel better in the moment, right? But then we crash, right? We crash because life happens. And sometimes when life happens in a way that we weren't expecting, that we didn't want, right? That we didn't want, that it did put us on our haunches, right? It did make it so that we didn't want to move, that it made it that we became disillusioned. And, we think about, like, what am I even here for, right? And to be sitting here right now and thinking and believing and totally 100% existing in a totally different idea. I think that's pretty amazing because a lot of people, and I'm out there, you guys. I don't talk about everything, right? But I am feeling a lot in this world, a lot in the experiences of different people, in different souls, in different communities and networks and religions, and right? And it is fascinating, but I'm allowing myself to be led into that. I'm not just doing it frivolously because I feel totally 100% that every time I allow Google or YouTube or the conversations or the people that come across my path or the adventures that I find myself in, that that's the evidence. That's the curious evidence. Like, if you really look at the experiences in your life and look at where you are now, even in comparison to where you were like 10 years ago, I would bet you, I would bet you anything that you would see the curiosity in it too that has led you to this moment in your own life, right? Like, you've got to look around and say, oh my goodness, how did I get here, right? Why did I get here? And I still think about the why, but not as much as I used to, right? I used to just go like, what's going on? Right? Like, crazy town, right? All my relationships disappearing. All my favorite things are just kind of disappearing out of my life. And why am I being so compulsive in this aspect? Why can't I let my YouTube channel just go? And yet I can't, because it keeps expanding, it keeps changing, it keeps becoming a little bit more me. And I become a little bit more it. And not only that, it kind of fits in, right? In that purpose, because it's my life. I'm creating the best life for myself as I possibly can. But in doing that, I want everybody to be able to create the best life for themselves as they possibly can. Even in the midst of the crazy town, the heartbreak, the grief, right? That is life. And that's evolution. Because if we had given up in the wars, in the sacrifices, in the plagues, like, we could have easily just sat on our haunches and just let it take us down. But I don't really think that's in any of us, in any of our natures at all, right? And but sometimes we think, until we get that diagnosis, until we get that bad news, we're just going to float, right? And then we get devastated when these things happen to us, and we go, oh my, why see me? Oh my goodness, life is over. I can't take one more step. And yet, with a little bit of time, a little bit of crying, right? And a little bit talking to our friends, we get through it. We get through it, right? And there are moments of wonderfulness. And we have to remember to create it for ourselves, not just wait for it to drop in our laps, right? Yes, things come across our path. Adventures, right? They pop in. Relationships pop in. But it's our contribution to that. Unless we reach for that, unless we play with that stuff in our hands, nothing is going to stick, right? And then we look at it as missed opportunities. Yeah, don't get me into that topic, because I have lived a life of missed opportunities. But in saying that, also, I have jumped in to the scary, to where I thought that that wasn't for me, right? I was dictated to be something else, right? I was dictated to be something else. How can this possibly be wanting to push through the doors and brighten up my life? And I'd say, oh, I don't know. It's scary, but let's feel it out. Let's see where this takes us. And then to find ourselves in magnificent adventures, amazing events, beautiful relationships, right? And right here in the moment, right? With some beautiful people. I'm happy that you are here tonight, Kathy, and happy we get to hear Cindy. Aw, thank you, Tammy. I'm always happy when I get to make it in and to be blessed to share some time with you and Cindy. Aw, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Tammy. That's really, really nice of you. I actually went out today for a walk. I fed some geese, and it made me kind of sad because, you know, I was feeding a pair of geese, and they're partnered, and geese are monogamous. They have one partner throughout their entire life. And every once in a while you'll see a single goose flying through the air, an adult one. The younger ones, they might not have just found their partner yet, but when you see the big ones, right, you go, oh my goodness, right, this one has lost its partner, and they actually die from loneliness, these geese, right? And there was an article in the news, and they were talking about a kid that they arrested because he purposely ran his car over some geese, and I thought that's just the worst thing ever, right? Have you guys been watching Timmy, the humpback whale in Germany? Have you guys been watching that? They put him on a barge. He actually swam into the barge. They were just letting them. He got into a bay like in the Baltic Sea. He came to the coast and he's just been on the sandbar, and they've been trying to save them for a month, but now the government's telling them to shut it down, to stop trying, and and its body weight is so heavy that its vital organs are being destroyed and stuff. Oh, you haven't looked him up yet? Oh, he's big news right now. Right now, they are towing him out. Two multi-millionaires or billionaires from Germany. It's two private men, and they made a great big barge, and it's costing millions of dollars. They don't care. They're doing it. This whale has been pretty much beached for a month. Its vital organs are breaking down. Its body is full of sores because it's brackish water, right? They're supposed to be out in the ocean, and they're in the sea. So in the sea, it's like half salt water and half fresh water. And that's not where the whales are supposed to be. They thought that they were going to, that it had gotten lost and it beached itself, and a few times they kind of dragged it, like everybody got together and they dragged it out into the middle of the sea, but it kept getting beached, right? And so the government said, just leave it, right? It's dying. There's nothing we can do about it now. That was about 2 weeks ago. And then this past week, a couple of millionaires says, no, we're going to put every penny that we have to, and we're going to tow this thing out to the ocean ourselves. Give it one more shot. And then different veterinarians have been taking care of it. People have been feeding it. It seems to be a little bit more comfortable with people. It's like a 30-foot whale. It's like a 30-foot humpback whale, and it had rope in its mouth. They got most of the rope out. There's still a little bit of rope in there. And this 21-year-old kid out of Germany came up with the idea of making a barge that kind of sank into the sea, and that's exactly what they did. And they thought they would have to drag the whale into it, but something got into the whale's mind, and the whale swam right into it. It's like a great big swimming pool in the sea. And now they got tugboats towing it out. They started that this morning. They were supposed to start yesterday, but the government, the paperwork, and they said, leave the whale alone. And these guys are saying, we're paying for this, right? The government doesn't have to do anything. Just stay out of it. Just give us one more shot, because maybe if we can get it to the ocean, right, that it won't come back into it's the Baltic Sea that it was in, right? And yeah, so I've been watching it. They've been giving us little updates, and you'll find videos on YouTube, you guys, if you guys want to take a look at it. Just Google Timmy the whale. That's all you have to do. They named him Timmy, right? So Timmy the whale. It's such a heart rendering and heart wrenching at the same time, but it really warms the heart, because millions and millions of people all over the world are watching it right now. No guarantees, like I said, the whale's vital organs, like it's been beached for almost a month, right? But they've been trying to feed it, and they've been giving it medical attention. They've been trying to get the rope out of its mouth, and right? Taking care of some of its wounds and stuff. But for the most part, the skin wounds are actually from the brackish water. So yeah, I encourage you. You guys would find it so interesting. And it should be out to the ocean sometime tonight, right? I don't think it would take so long. They're going pretty slow, but at the same time, they know how important it is to get the whale out into the ocean. So they're moving it along, but they think sometime tonight that they'll be able to get there, and they've got monitors on the whale, so they'll be able to track the whale. And if the whale beaches itself again, then they'll let it pass, right? But they really thought that they should give it one more try, right? Because the only tries they gave it was to get it out into the deeper end of the Baltic Sea, but it didn't know where to go. There's no currents or anything, right? So yeah, they're taking it right to the ocean this time. Yeah, make sure you take a look at it. It's really, really interesting. Uh, I really hope it has a happy ending too. But I think the ending is happy no matter whether it works or whether it doesn't work. That's the big thing about it. It's because it's brought the world together, right? It's showing everybody's heart, and we need more. We need more of that, not less of that. We need more of these stories. I get you. I understand, Kathy, because I have gotten hooked into those save the elephants and save the dogs and the cats. I've gotten hooked into those videos very easily, right? But I'm always looking for the good outcomes. And usually there are good outcomes in that, right? There's always a happily ever after when they find a skinny dog and they bring it back from the brink, and right, and then they find a new home, and there's always a happy ending in that. But sometimes it is hard to digest, but I get it. But we have to stay soft, you guys. We have to stay soft in a world that's so hard. And especially for people who have woken up to some of these ideas that we are, right, the next stage of evolution, that we are moving forward. And I believe a big part of us having that invitation to be moving forward is the fact that we haven't gone hard, that we have managed to keep some semblance, not a lot of it, right? Because some of those experiences that people go through are pretty terrifying. They're pretty devastating, and they can make people go cold, right? They can make people feel like I'm never gonna love again because I got my heart broken, right? I'm never gonna come out of this depression because my best friend passed away or my mother passed away, right? That we harden up that way. But that's the idea. We're supposed to feel those sad emotions, those, because it reminds us that we're human, right? And it's important to remind ourselves that we're human because the human is a big part of this, right? You can't move forward without the human. Those other parts of me, what are they going to do without Cindy coming in here live every single night and spewing her thing, right? It's in that partnership with ourselves. It's in that creating the best life for ourselves as we possibly can, enjoying it, even the sad parts, because there's blah, 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 because there are lessons in the small part. And that was something that I never appreciated, right? Right? I was terrified of job interviews. That person that was behind the door that was going to judge me in 90 seconds. And in that last second, and opening up that door, throwing my hand to shake some stranger's hand, that I had a couple of sentences to feel out somebody, whether they were good people or bad people. That if I had a possibility of a job or they had already made their decision. Right? That was scary for me. One of the scariest things in the whole world was job interviews for me. And yet everybody in my family loved to go for job interviews. Now with a little bit of confidence. Hello, Eugene. Hello, Eugene. I'm doing good tonight. It is a thunderstorm in Brunswick County, Virginia, at Freeman, Virginia, and I'm going to Paul the Rail Fanner YouTube channel. You have a great time over there, Eugene. You have a great time over there. Oh my goodness. But yeah, staying soft, enjoying your life, but make a little bit of movement in it, right? And sometimes it's in brightening somebody else's life up, holding somebody else up when they're not feeling good. Sometimes it is doing those adventures, and it's important that you give yourself those gifts, because those gifts give you the confidence. They give you that self-worth. They give you the smiles and the joy and the feeling that you matter, right? And I think, I'm thinking about, well, I'm going to be applying at a couple of the beer gardens here. I live in a area, Winnipeg, that has lots of clubs and beer gardens and stuff. So I'm thinking maybe I'm going to go and apply there. They've really did a big renovation. They have a curling club in the area that I live in. But during the summertime, nobody's curling in the summertime, right? And because it's a big part of our history, right? It's been around, this curling club, for, oh my goodness, 125, 150 years. But there's nothing going on there in the summertime. So they've opened up the grounds along the river on their property, and they have fenced it off, and they did a really neat style with making, log benches and log picnic tables and stuff, and they've turned it into a nightclub. And I walked by there. I was going to go and apply the other day, but the construction, they were just doing major work. But I think they're planning on opening up for May long weekend, and I thought that would be a job that I would love. That would be a job that I would really enjoy. And that tip money, right? And I'm going to guess that it's going to be a pretty popular place. It's going to have a dance floor. It's got seating for a couple of hundred people, walk up bars, and it's and it's along the river. It was just a perfect idea. It should have been something that they had started like decades ago, but this is only going to be the second year that they've done it. So I'm going to see if I can get on, and I'm going to do that scary thing and see if I can get a job interview, right? So I only need a couple of days. It will give me some excitement because I love bartending and waitressing. It's my thing, because I just love meeting interesting people, and I love having a job where I'm having fun at it. I feel like I'm part of the party and I'm getting paid for it, so that on my days off I can flake out and do what I want to do, right? By myself, hang out by myself. I had a beautiful time today. I went for a walk, like I said. I fed some geese and I hugged some trees. I went to a thrift store to see if I could find any scores to sell. I couldn't find anything. Then I went and picked up a few groceries, grateful. I sold a garden pot that I had dug up a few years ago in my favorite uh, bottle dig, my garbage dump from 1895 to 1910, and I found this garden pot. It didn't even have one chip in it, right? And it was at least 120 years, but probably another 20 years older than that because nobody throws anything brand new out, especially back then. So it must have been at least 140 years old, this garden pot. And I got $50 for it today, and it went to a nice lady. I chit chatted with her in the messages. I didn't get to meet her. She sent her husband to come and pick it up, but I chatted with her in the messages, and I told her about the bottle dump, and she does some mudlarking. So I told her about um, a river bank that used to have a great big pot company, manufacturing company in the early 1900s. But they used to dump all their pot bottles and beer bottles and stuff into the river, right? So later on in the summer, when the water line goes down, you can actually walk down there and see all this old glass. I think I've only found one bottle that wasn't totally smashed, but it's the river, so the current just, but so much old glass, and exciting when I find like the hutch tops, the top of the bottles, right? Because I can recognize those now. And so yeah, it's lots of fun. It's a garbage dump there too. So I sometimes dig into the bank of the garbage dump and find old teapots and dishes and stuff like that. But nothing too exciting, not like my one across from the Forks, right? I really missed that one, but they got like a 50-story high rise on top of that one now. But yeah, I'm gonna find myself a new bottle dump this summer. Have a few adventures. And I when I sold my little garden pot, I added a little video where I found the garden pot when I dug it up out of the ground. And the video was so cute because I had a great big sun hat on. I looked really cute with great big dangly earrings and stuff. But my face was just covered in dirt, like when you have like a little 5 or 6 year old playing with mud pies. I had that all over my face, right, from digging into the bank of the river. It was kind of cute, but you can see she says I didn't have any sound in it. I muted it because I was just blabbering away about all my finds and stuff, but I wanted to show me digging the garden pot out of the dump. And oh, she says you look so excited when you found that garden pot, right? Because when I wrote up the ad, I said a little bit about how I found it and everything, right? She said you look so excited when you found that garden pot. I says it was so exciting, like so exciting, right? It was like finding treasure because that's history, and you guys know how much I love history, eh? Good luck, Cindy. The beer garden interviews. I will send you some good vibes. Thank you, Tammy. Good positive thoughts and prayers to your ways. Yeah, I'd appreciate that, right? And I'll be proud of myself. And I think, I've built up the skills and the confidence enough that I am not going to be anxious, right? I'm not going to allow myself to talk myself out of going down there and applying for those positions, right? I'll just make sure that I look cute because they don't know who I am, right? And I'll just be myself. And I think, I could be a pretty friendly person if I'm just myself and natural. They'll get the gist that I can connect with their customers, right? And in my resume, I've got a professional resume too, and I've got lots of bartending and waitressing experience. So, and if I'm only looking for a couple of days a week, and they can fire me if I don't do a good job. But I know myself. Like once my foot is in the door, I will show myself well. I'll even show myself well in the job interview. I know I will. Right? It's that pressure. It's that 90 seconds that I have to make a good impression. Hmm. That spectacular news about what you did for the video and that famous historical garden pot there. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then I says, "Oh, by the way, did you see my bonsai garden pot that I got at Goodwill for $6?" And she goes, "No, I didn't see that. I'll go look right now." Then she messaged me right away because she saw that I had it listed for $1,000. She goes, "Oh my goodness, you must have been so excited when you found that." I said, "Yeah, I talked about it for a week and I did the research on it for a week." And it's true, every time I find something like that I've never come across before, a lot of the fun of it is in the research of the item, right? And when I researched it and found all out, how the glaze was made and the process and how long it takes and how much work was in it and the artisans that made it, and I went, "Oh my goodness, no wonder these things are so expensive." And mine's cheap compared. I found one almost the same design and the same color as mine, except that one was a square one and mine has six sides on it. Um, and they wanted, I think, 1,200 US, which I think is about 15 or $1,600 Canadian. And so I'm only asking $1,000 Canadian for mine. So I haven't got any bites on it. That would be awesome if I could sell that, because that would pay for my camping spots, which I've got to switch up. I went back into that park today. That I wrapped my whole trip because of this one park near Sunbury, Ontario, that I wanted to go visit this year, and there's no spots. I'd probably be able to get one closer to the time when I'm leaving, and that's when people are kind of saying, "Oh, I've had enough of camping this summer. I could use that money for something else. Let's just get a little bit of a refund and cancel my booking." And I'll probably be able to get a booking then. But I don't want to leave it for the spur of the moment. Mind you, there's so many parks in Ontario, hundreds and hundreds of provincial parks, especially around that area, that I'll be able to find another park. But I don't like to leave things for the last minute, right? I'd like to get it done right now, if at all possible. And I have a few items. Oh, and I sold another one of my wood birds today too. A lady came and picked it up. It wasn't a $1,500 bird. That would be great because that would pay for my car rental. That one, but it was a little bird made by somebody out of Kelowna, and he was a pretty well known wildlife artist too, right? And so slowly things are moving along, but the way that they're moving along, it's not putting me in that panic mode, that heartbreak mode, that all my lovelies are disappearing on me. I know eventually they'll have to go, but I want to enjoy them for as long as I can enjoy them. They're listed, right? Almost everything is listed, most of it anyway. Is listed, and when it's time for it to go, it's time for it to go. And I have not been disappointed in parting with anything that I have sold, and I have sold a lot, and I'm grateful that I sold a lot because it's managed to put a roof over my head and groceries in the cupboard. How creative was that, right? Be my own boss, right? Practicing my entrepreneurship skills. Yeah. I wish they had bursaries and sponsorships mature, but entrepreneurs, but they're just looking for the kids in university, the kids that are just starting to work out. They're always putting age 18 to 30 years old. If you're an entrepreneur, apply for these applications. And I'm just like, yeah, but what about me? Okay, you guys, if you've never uh yeah, it was a heron bird. It was really, really well made too, with the dogwoods, or not dogwoods, the things that hang in the marshes. I can't remember. Just something dog. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, it was really well made, and the bottom was covered with felt, but they had cut a circle where the information of the artist and everything was, so that you could see who made it, right? And so I had all the information, and I actually Googled him, and he was famous. He's not as famous as my bronze artist, right? So I'm going to give it another month or so and see if I can sell it for myself. If not, I'm going to contact a couple of art galleries and see if they'll sell it and just take a commission on it. There's only one art gallery that has the wood carvings, and it only has one wood carving. All the rest of them are the bronzes, right? Because he started off doing wood carvings. I was just kind of hoping, because my sister said, Marketplace would be a good place to put it up, because maybe a family member or something would see it and want it as a memory. Like, he's still alive. This gentleman is still alive, right? He's mature, but he's still alive and kicking, and he just actually did a show and made a really beautiful bronze. It was a horse team with a covered wagon, huge, like as big as my living room, and they put it in a big park in one of the cities up north, right? Yeah, so yeah, the, I've got, right. I just need two people to say I need those things, and then my camping spots are paid for, and my car rental is paid for, and I'm in. I'm in. But if I get in at the beer gardens, I'll just bank all my paychecks, right? I'll just bank all my paychecks and just live off my tip money, right? It'd be a whole lot more than what I'm making in this moment, and that would just work out perfect for me. I'll have the most amazing summer. I'll be busy. I'll be doing what I love. I can start planning my vacation, and that little bit of stress, right? Because it's still stressful, because I still got to figure out how I'm going to manifest that trip in September, right? So it's worrisome. I know it's happening. How it's happening, I don't know. But the stress of it is there, and that would just eliminate the stress 100%. But if I don't get in on the beer gardens, I'll just take any old job, right? Because, in September I'll be retiring officially, and yeah, and I'll be a pension lady. How excited for that is. Yeah, I was really sad to hear about that there's no pension system in the States. Like, unless you have one of those good jobs and one of those company that contributes to a pension, that there is no pension system. Like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I would do. Like, I don't want to be working when I'm 80 years old. I want to be having the time of my life. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card. Maybe it's pertinent to the conversation, maybe it's not. If you've never hung out with me before, these are 54 powerful words. I made this deck myself. When I was making this deck, I pulled 54 powerful words, one word every week. That word became a part of my deck. And every day of that week that I pulled the card, we looked at the word in different perspectives, in experiences, in little stories, right? And in relation to what I bring to the table, right? In my own little, right, little drummer girl way, bringing a little bit of inspiration and motivation to the table. If not for anybody else, for myself. Okay, you guys, here we go. Let's grab a card. Oh my goodness, this is a good word. Freedom is the choice to dictate for ourselves. Now, if you've been hanging out with me for any length of time, you know in my childhood that my life was kind of dictated for me. I was in a little bit of a constraint by what other people thought of me. And I took my own fault. I picked up that baton and I treated myself the same way as other people did. And I kept myself captive just as bad, if not worse, than how other people kept me captive in my whole life. And it's really sad to say that my freedom came from people leaving my life. And when people left my life, there would always be a sense of freedom. There would be a sense of freedom in that because I wasn't having to project myself in a way that would be acceptable for somebody else. Like, if you guys know, I was always pleasing my father, right? My father had congenital heart failure. And, he was the love of my life. Just to this very day, he was the love of my life. He was the only person in this world that I really believe truly loved me. And, I gave to him. I cared for him. And he wasn't around a lot, but when he was around, in my codependence, because I felt that way about him. He was my hero. He was my lifesaver. He was my best friend, right? That I gave everything I had to make his life comfortable, to make him happy, to make him proud of me when I didn't feel proud of myself. And, when my father passed away, it was curious. Oh, it was hard, right? It was hard. It was one of the most heartbreaking things that I'd ever gone through in my entire life. But there was a feeling of freedom that came from that because the chains had been broken, because I didn't have to serve him. And isn't that sad to say that I had enslaved myself to my dad's well being? I had attached myself to my dad's life. And I would do it again. Well, maybe I wouldn't do it again, right? I would do it differently. I'm still a giving person. I'd still want to do it because I want to do it, but I wouldn't do it because I needed to do it. But in the same token, when my mother passed away, I had that sense of freedom too, because, you know, I was afraid of my mother. So there was that people pleasing again, but that people pleasing is to keep them from thinking or saying bad things about me, or to out me in the family, right? To keep me offset from everybody else. And I did a lot of people pleasing in that relationship too. But again, there was that sense of freedom when she had passed away. And I did come alive, right? I immersed myself more in this idea of creating the best life for myself as I possibly could, because I never got to do that because I was creating the best life for others my entire my entire life. And that's a sad thing. And I'm not the only person in this world that does that, right? Everybody does that to some extent. But some of us also do that to an extreme where, we become captives. We become our own, I was going to say mush, right? Like our own slave drivers, right? That we become so immersed at making sure that everybody is comfortable that we neglect ourselves, right? That we neglect ourselves and we forget that we only have one shot at this life and we're supposed to make the best of this life as we possibly can for ourselves, in the joy of it, in the production of it, right? It's good to give, but we got to give from a cup that's overflowing. We can't give from a cup that's empty. Like there's a straw down there, like it's the bottom of a milkshake, and we're making those slurpy noises at the bottom of a cup, right? Or somebody else doing that in our cup. That we have to make sure that we understand that each one of us is an individual, that each one of us has something to contribute, but also that each one of us matters, right? And that point, we can coexist, we can co lift everybody else without feeling that we're giving and sacrificing, right? The last bit of us. Okay, you guys, I think that is good for tonight. That's my good cheer. I hope everybody's week is going good. Um, I'm off to a good start myself. I'm just going to enjoy my coffee. Let's see what YouTube and Google has in an offering for me and see where they're going to lead me tonight. And I will be back tomorrow. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, you guys, for coming in. Thank you, Tammy. Everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you.